So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hark back again a little bit to last week. I'll probably bring up the circle of fifths again and just reiterate basically the same things that I said last week, but in a little bit more detail. So minor scales. Now, we all know what major scales are, which is your tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, or your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, that you might already be familiar with, like that sort of sound, or that's a D major scale, etc. You know, there's a major scale for every note on the keyboard, so every starting note has its own major scale. And it's the same goes for minor scales as well. So if you think about like, I don't know, yin and yang, maybe, they could be likened to that. You've got your major scale, which is often referred to as like a bright sounding scale. And then you've got your minor scale, which is often referred to as being like a darker sound or a more inward sound. So major would be like a, you know, you've got your, know that, isn't it? Let me just, so there we go. So that's your major sound, and your minor sound is more inwards. Yeah. Now, minor scales and major scales, they coexist in the same sort of you know, hemisphere, and they work together to make music sound interesting, and you know, to give it depth. So minor scales. Now then, if I just bring up, let's look. Oh, I've got it here. There it is. Okay, so here's a circle of fifths again. As you can see from it, we will have had. Sorry, just 2 seconds a minute. Well, it opens up. There it is. Okay. Yeah. So this is our circle of fifths that we looked at last week, and you were introduced to the circle of fifths and what it does and how it works. I'll just go over it really, really quickly again. So on the from the outer circle inward, we've got our major keys on the outside of the circle in red, and then with their key signatures, with their relative key signatures here on the outside, and that's the major keys. And then this grey circle here is to tell you how many sharps or flats are contained within that key signature, or within that scale of that key. And then on the inside, the green ones in the lowercase, those are the relative minor keys that are, you know, to that major scale. So you can see there you've got C, so the relative minor for C is going to be A, relative minor for G is E, relative minor for F is D minor. And remember that the major scale and the minor scale, they actually use the same key signature. So when you look at a piece of sheet music and you see the key signature, and usually you can tell what key a piece of music is in just by looking at the key signature. But sometimes the key might be a minor key, so the piece of music might be in a minor key. But you, for instance, the piece might be in D minor, but you will see it as the key signature will be 1 flat, or, you know, so it can either be in F major or D minor. You don't know until you sort of hear the piece of music, and you can sort of find out, you can see what sort of tonality is prevalent overall in the piece, and then you can make a decision based on that. Quite often though, what you'll find is pieces of music, they weave in and out of major and minor keys, so they are 2 separate things, but they join together to make one thing, and that happens more often than not. So a minor scale is essentially the same sort of scale as a major scale, except it starts on a different note. So for instance, I will say C major, okay? So there's the scale of C major. We've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, okay? Now the relative minor to C major is A minor. Now if I start a scale on A and play from A to A, okay? You can see that scale uses the same notes as C major. I'll give you another example, okay? So let's do G. So the scale of G major, yeah, you can see that G major uses an F sharp in its key signature and in its scale. Now you'll see that the relative minor to G major is E minor. So if I start a scale on E and go to E again, E, so you'll see there. Okay, can you see that F sharp? There. Okay, so you'll see that they use the same notes. They're just starting on a different note, but they have a different tonality, or what we call a different a different tonic, or a different keynote as well. The keynote of a piece or of a scale would be the note that it starts and ends on. So for instance, with C major, the keynote is C. With G major, the keynote is G. With A minor, the keynote is A minor, and you get the picture. So there are 3 different types of minor scale. And they are, where is my thing? Yes, there it is. Okay, there are 3 different types of minor scale. So we have the harmonic minor scale, the melodic minor scale, and the natural minor scale. Now these, I explained these last week, but I'll try to go into as much detail as I can over them. The natural minor scale, it's best to work from the bottom up. So the natural minor scale is the minor scale that comes directly from the major scale, which is with like nothing changed at all. So for instance, again, let's do C major. We'll stick with C major for now. We've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C for our major scale. Now, if I go to either the 6th note in the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I go 3 semitones down, so 1, 2, 3, I'll land on a relative minor, and that's how you find the relative minor, by the way. And I play all the same notes as there are in C major, I will come up with the natural minor scale. There it is. Okay, nothing changed. The minor scale in its most natural form. And A would be the keynote. There we are. So these 2, that chord, and that chord, the C major chord, and the A minor chord, are directly related. The next type of scale is the minor scale, is the melodic minor scale. The melodic minor scale is, like it says here, like it says in the name, it's used for writing melodies mainly. So I'll stick with, this one's written in A minor, so I'll stick with the A minor one. So the melodic minor scale sounds like this. Okay, now you'll have noticed that it was different on the way up than it was on the way down. The reason for this is because the 6th and 7th degrees of the scale, these 2 in this case, are raised by a semitone. Now this was a type of scale that was sort of invented by composers around the beginning of the Baroque era, late Renaissance, where they sort of they found that they were having problems when they were trying to write melodies in a natural minor key. It just didn't sound right to them. It has more, when you go to the top of the scale here and you're leading up, it has more of a lift up to the tonic or the keynote here. So, and it has more of a sense of arrival, which is why they sharpened those notes. And then on the way down, on a descending melodic minor scale, you don't need to change anything because it just kind of like leads itself back to the keynote. So you don't. You see, it sounds a bit weird coming down with that G sharp there, leading from the A to the G sharp. Doesn't quite work on the way down as well as it does on the way up. There, it just really wants to go to that A, but on the way down, and it kind of sounds more like a major scale from the top down. And all of a sudden it's minor for some reason, it just kind of doesn't really work that well. So they kept it as the natural minor scale on the way down. It's all to do with coherence in, musical meaning and things like that. Now the melodic minor scale, I wouldn't say it's neglected because it's not, it's used quite often, but for the purposes of what we are doing here, it's not that important, but it is important for you to know about it and be aware of it. The melodic minor scale is more of a compositional tool. So, you know, if you were all composers and I was giving a composition class here, I'd make sure that you really knew your melodic minor scales. But for the purposes of what we're doing, it's not that important. Okay, so the harmonic minor scale. Now, this one is the one that's most widely used around. The harmonic minor scale is called the harmonic minor scale because it has a central role in harmony, which is something that we haven't looked into in this course. But it sounds like this. So it sounds similar to the melodic minor scale, but it hasn't got that raised sixth degree there like the melodic has. It has a natural sixth, and then it's got the sharpened seventh, and it's the same at both ascending and descending. And like I said before, the harmonic minor scale is called the harmonic minor scale because it's used in harmony. So in chords like see the raised seventh there? So we've got an A minor chord, an E major chord, a G sharp in it. And it leads better from the G sharp to the A than it does with the G natural. So if I played that using a natural minor scale, it sounds something like this. Which sounds okay. It sounds okay, but it doesn't have as strong a pull as this one. You hear how that one just really wants to move to there. It can't really go anywhere else. If I move from here, so if I go A minor, that could go anywhere. Maybe it could go there and it would sound coherent. You know, it could go. You could do this. You know, so it leads you to. You can go anywhere with it. But if you use a sharpened seventh on the harmonic minor scale, you can't really go anywhere else. It just really wants to go back there. So that's why the harmonic minor scale is called the harmonic minor scale. Now the rules, I'll go over them one more time. The harmonic minor scale has a raised seventh degree, so raised by a semitone. The melodic minor scale uses a raised sixth and seventh degree of the scale, and the natural form of the scale coming back down again, and which is probably the hardest one to grasp. And the natural minor scale is it's au naturel. It's taken straight from the major scale, nothing changed, nothing altered or anything like that. It's the minor scale in its purest form. Now, what I might just dive into very quickly to make you aware of it again is that both the major scale and the minor scale are two forms of what we call modes. Now, I don't know if any of you are aware of modes, what they are. You might have heard the term church modes before, but modes are different types of tonalities that are still used today, mainly in jazz music, but they used to be used very often in medieval music, in Gregorian chants and things like that. So, for instance, if I play a scale like this, yeah, it has a sort of very medieval sound to it. Yeah, and there are 7 different modes. So each scale or tonic or keynote, if you like, so we'll stick with C again as an example, there will be 7 modes of C. And we don't say 7 modes of C major, we would say, because major is a mode in itself, we'd say the 7 modes of C. So the first mode in C would be this, which is C to C, what we now call these days the major scale. The second mode would be D to D. And that has a very odd sound that you might not be used to, using D as the keynote. And that type of tonality is called the Dorian mode. They all have Greek names. The third mode is called, oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
Was that Dorian, D-O-R-I-A-N?
Yeah, Dorian, D-O-R-I-A-N, yeah, Dorian. The first mode, sorry, I missed out that one. We call it major, but it's actually called the Ionian Mode, which is I-O-N-A-N. The second mode is the Dorian Mode. Yeah. The third mode, E to E, in this case, would be called the Phrygian Mode with a P-H-R-Y-G-I-A-N, the Phrygian Mode. That has a very odd sound. Sometimes called the Gypsy Scale, that one. The fourth mode, which would be F to F, is called the Lydian Mode. L-Y-D-I-N. Sorry, L-Y-D-I-A-N. So that's the Lydian Mode. And the fifth mode is called the Mixolydian Mode, which is M-I-X-O, Lydian. So that sounds very major. The sixth mode is called the Aeolian Mode, A-E-O-L-I-A-N. They're all something Leon at the end, which we now call these days the natural minor scale. Yeah, the Aeolian Mode. And the seventh mode, which is very rarely used, and was also very rarely used even in the medieval era as well, is called the Locrian Mode, or the Locrian Mode, L-O-C-R-I-A-N. Now you can hear that sounds like it doesn't really have an end. It doesn't really seem to go anywhere. It's not really used that much because of its sort of instability when it comes to the key notes. It doesn't. Remember, music used to be only used as in a secular sense in the medieval period. Music was for God. And that was it, that was usually, well, always what music was used for. Doesn't sound very really, doesn't sound great for the church, does it? However, something like this. It has a tonic, it sounds resolved, it sounds finished. And that's what those modes are all about. So now you know about those. If you want to go and research modes some more, because they are very, very interesting and also very, very complex as well. It's a bit of a minefield with modes, but if you want to have a look into modes, then by all means go ahead and do that, but prepare yourself and have a pen and a pad ready. Okay, so yeah, those are your three types of minor scale. Now then, we are only going to focus really on the natural minor scale because everything else, or the other two scales, are altered scales, and they don't really, they are, I wouldn't say superficial, but they are like invented scales, that they've been invented to serve a purpose. But the natural minor scale it exists, naturally within music. So that's the one that we're going to focus on mainly. Now I'll just go back to the relative majors and minors and keep you thinking about what this means. Relative keys or relative majors and minors refers to the minor scale that is it correlates directly with whatever other scale, other major scales. So remember, it's major and minor, and those are relative keys. So you've got C major, A minor, relative major and minor, G and E, relative major and minor. And it also works the other way as well. Okay, so you can say C major is the relative major of A minor. So it doesn't always have to be that way around. Okay, so with that in mind anyway, let's build a couple of minor scales. So I think what we'll do is we will build a scale of, that's what I think, one that's got some sharps and flats in it. Let's go with the scale of D minor. So we're going to build the scale of D natural minor. Now, first of all, what we need to do is we need to find out what's the key signature of D minor. In order to do that, we kind of need to know what the relative major is, don't we? So if we pull up our circle of fifths, what we'll say is, so we find D minor, yeah, so we find D minor, there it is. Okay, well, what is D? Okay, so D and F minor are related. Sorry, D minor and F major are related. And we know that the key signature of F is B flat. So that must mean that the key signature of D minor is B flat. So we're looking at for a scale that starts on D, ends on D, and it has B flat in it. That's the scale of D minor. So what we will do, let's use semibreves. Okay, so we'd start on a D here, there. Okay, so the next note in the scale is going to be E, and then F, and then G. Yeah. So we've got D, E, F, G. Okay, good so far. And then we've got A. So that's the sixth note, 6 notes. So D, E, F, G, A. And then we come to the B. So that's going to be the B flat. There it is. And then the next one is obviously going to be C, because we can't use B natural. And then we're going to end up with the D again. So that is our scale of D minor. And it sounds like this. There we go. There's a scale of D minor. Easy enough.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to change this scale and turn it into a harmonic minor scale, what would I need to do? Harmonic minor scale. We need to do something to one of the notes, don't we?
Sharpen it.
Yes, we need to sharpen one of the notes.
Yeah, sharpen the seventh.
That's it. We need to sharpen the seventh. That's it. Now, remember also that when you're writing a minor scale, you always raise the seventh to create a harmonic minor scale, but you might not necessarily have to sharpen it. So sometimes you might need to naturalize the seventh note rather than sharpen it, because it might already be flat in the key. Yeah. So in that case, you would just naturalize the note rather than sharpening it. So we've got 1 D, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need to sharpen that C. So there we go. That is now a scale of D harmonic minor, and it sounds like this. Okay, you see we've got that like funny gap there. That's because we've actually flattened the B and sharpened, so we're left with this gap between B flat and C sharp. Like that. Now take note also that because the harmonic minor scale is an altered scale, in this case we have altered one of the notes in the natural form of the minor scale, in this case C, the C sharp would not appear in the key signature. So if the piece is in the key of D minor, you will only have B flat in the key signature. You will not have B flat and C sharp in the key signature. Remember, you can't mix sharps and flats in a key signature. You can only add them in the piece. And then also, you know, in the next instance, when that C appears again, it might not be sharpened. It might be in a natural form. So, you know, these things need to be, we need to have these things, you know, so we can move them around as much as we want.
Yeah, so just to clarify for me, number one, the counting the 7, you include the first note in the signature. Okay. At this point in time, you've got no key signature on that line. Were you to put a key signature in there, then I'm lost.
The B flat would disappear. I'll give you, yeah, I know what you're getting at, Duncan. So I'll give you an example. Okay, so well, let's F major and D minor are the same. See there, it's got major flat keys, F major, and major flat key, and minor flat keys, D minor. It's the same key signature. Yeah. But yeah, I'll put that there. There we go. So now I've got a key signature there of B flat, yeah, which is could be F major or D minor. We don't know. Well, we know because we.
And your software automatically removed that flat.
Yes, it did. Yeah. It's automatically removed the B flat because it doesn't need to be there.
Sure.
Because it's already in the key signature. But the C sharp has stayed there.
Yeah.
So in this case, if we unnaturalize that C again, that's now just gone back to C natural. So we've gone back to the natural form of the minor scale now. So now C sharp and the C. There we are. Now we're in the harmonic form of the minor scale. Okay, so that's how minor scales work. Now, with minor scales, don't be sort of thinking, oh no, I'll never learn this, like this is so much to learn, because minor scales, you only really have to be aware of the rules with minor scales. You don't have to sort of memorize all your minor scales, because when it comes to learning harmony and things like minor chords and all that sort of stuff, there are other methods as well to learn, minor harmony and major harmony, but knowing your scales is kind of essential to knowing which notes are going to be in the chord, if you get what I mean. And the same with the minor scales as well. So if I take like the notes of D, F and A, the first, the third and the fifth of the scale, that's going to give me this chord here, D minor, and that will be a D minor chord, D, F and A. Because that is the first, the third and the fifth degree of the minor scale. It's the same with like C major as well. So we know that in the scale of C major, our first, third, and fifth degrees are C, D, E, G. So C, E, and G. So that would give me that, and that would be a C major chord. That's harmony. So we haven't got into that yet, but that's be aware of that. Be aware of that. Okay, I think that is all I need to say for this. We can try building one more scale. Let's do the scale of B minor. We'll do B minor. No, we'll do G minor. That's a good one, because G minor is the relative minor of what key? Does anybody know? Everyone's frantically looking for their circle of fifths.
B flat.
Yes, B flat. Excellent. Yeah, it's B flat. It's B flat. Good. So yeah, we've got B flat there. So we've got two flats in B flat, and there's our key signature. And then the minor, the relative minor, is G minor for B flat major. So we have G minor has two flats in it. So obviously, what we will do is we will start on the. I'm just going to get rid of that key, I think. Right, okay. Let's start with, so we're in the key of G minor, we want to build the G minor scale. Start with G. And then the next one's going to be A. And then, so what's in our key signature? B flat and E flat. Okay, so we've just come to a B, so we need to flatten that B. There we go. So we've got B flat. Next note's obviously going to be C. G, A, B flat, C. D would be the next one, and then the next note in the sequence is E, but that has to be E flat, remember, because it's B flat and E flat in the key signature. And then the next note in the sequence is going to be F, and then the next one, our finishing note, is going to be G. So there is our scale of G minor, or G natural minor in this case, and it sounds like this. There it is. G, A, B flat, C, E, G. And how it's like, well, it's exactly the same formula for building a minor scale as the D minor one. That's the natural one. For the harmonic minor scale of G, harmonic minor, what would we need to do to turn that into a harmonic minor scale?
Raise the F.
Yeah, raise the seventh. That's it. Yeah, we need to raise the seventh. So G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F sharp. In this case, so there it is. There you go. That is now the harmonic form of the G minor scale, and that sounds like this. You're going to hear how it sounds just like the D minor harmonic scale. Yeah. Funny gap there. So there we are. That is how your harmonic minor scales work, and your natural minor scales. So there we are. Has anyone got any questions? I'm going to go over the answers from last week's worksheet, and then I'm going to go over this week's worksheet.
Could you just explain again about why it's called a circle of fifths, the relationship between the major and minor scales, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the circle of fifths is called the circle of fifths because the relationship between this key and this key is the interval of a fifth. And the relationship between this key and this key is an interval of a fifth, and so on. This one and this one, and then this one to this one. All the relationships are the relationship of a perfect fifth, the interval of a perfect fifth in this case. So in the key of C major, a perfect fifth is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a G. So start here, go up a fifth from C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We land on G. And then go up a fifth in the key of G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We land on D, which is there. And then go up a fifth in the key of D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're on the key of A. And that's how that works. Now, if we go the other way, then it's still the circle of fifths as well. So when we read the circle of fifths, remember, we go this way for the sharps and this way for the flats. If you go around this way for the sharps and you get to the bottom, that is still going to be the circle of fifths. So from there to there is all the interval of a fifth. But if you keep going from here and push on to the other side, this will then become the circle of fourths rather than the circle of fifths. Because this, yeah, I know. So this G, the interval between G flat and a D flat is a fourth. A D flat and A flat is a fourth. A flat to E flat is a fourth. E flat to B flat fourth. B flat to F is a fourth, and F to C like this. Yeah. Well, that's a fifth. The interval of a fifth is the same as a fourth inverted. So that's a fifth, and that's a fourth, but they're both C to F. That's something I'm not going to get into now because I can talk about that all night. But yeah, so if you go C to F down, that's a fifth, and then F to B flat, that's a fifth, and E flat to E flat, that's also a fifth, and so on. So E flat to A flat is a fifth, A flat to D flat is a fifth. So that's what it is. And also as well, the intervals between the minor scales works the same way. So you've got A to E minor. So if I go from A, go up a fifth in the key of A minor, I land on E. So A to E minor is also a fifth. And E to B, that is also a fifth. B to F sharp is a fifth. F sharp to C sharp is a fifth, and so on. And it works the same way this way. A to D. A down to D is a fifth. D down to G is a fifth. G down to C is a fifth, as we already know here, because C to G, G to C. Yeah, it's like a big puzzle, but once you understand it, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really quite amazing how it works.
Very mathematical.
It's quite mathematical, yeah. But I mean, there's not really much sort of figuring out, because once you understand it, and then that's it, you know. But it is kind of like a formula, a mathematical formula in a sense. And this circle of fifths can be used, and is often used by composers and arrangers and people like that, you know, to sort of almost like a map. You know, you could sort of, if you were looking to compose a piece of music and you didn't really know what to do, you could sort of randomly throw darts at this, and then whatever you landed on, you could go to that chord and you would have a piece of music, you know. You just have to know how to get between those chords. But it can be a really useful tool for that as well. It's very useful for lots of things, learning your key signatures, learning your scales, all sorts of stuff. It's kind of a one size fits all, you know, thing, and it's great. It's a really, really good tool.
I've just sent a PDF to everyone of the circle of fifths if they want to print it out locally.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you for that, Dorian. That's brilliant.
This is the second time I've been through this course. I'm still learning lots and lots. It really is just like learning to ride a very complicated bike. But once
you got one pedal for each turn of the wheel, one different pedal, yeah, and about 6 different brakes. Okay, good. I'm going to go through the last week's worksheet now, if I can find the thing. I've got that much stuff on here. Where are we? Okay. It was the week 7 one. Yes, it was. Okay, here are the answers for the last week's worksheet. Okay. Right, there we are. So it was to write in the relevant major scale using accidentals only. It was literally just scale practice for you. So for the C major scale, you should have had this here. C major, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Pretty straightforward. We already know that one. For the G major scale, you will. What I've done is I've highlighted the sharps or the flats that you should have come up with in red. So for the G major scale, starts on G, ends on G. So it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. If using the formula, the major scale formula, this is straightforward enough to figure out. Then the F major scale, beginning and starting and ending on F. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. The B flat major scale, starting on a B flat. I've just arbitrarily chosen this B here to this B flat here to start on, but you can start on any B flat. So we've got B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. And remember, this is a duplicate note, so it doesn't count as an extra flat in the key signature or anything. And then you've got D major, which will be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. Okay, so hope you got all those right. I'll be sending that out to you straight after this session. Now, the next one is to do with, where are we? There we are, okay. I have to check which one's the answers. Oh no, right, that's the, okay. This is this week's worksheet. Now, this is all about minor scales and relative majors and minors. I haven't done all of the keys that we've looked at so far, but I've done a few of them. I don't want to sort of burden you with that much stuff. But here you've got your major and minor keynotes. Now, remember I mentioned what keynotes are before. I'll explain them again briefly. The keynote of a scale or a key is the note that it starts on. So for instance, in the key of C major, the keynote is C. In the key of G major, the keynote is G. And the same goes for minor scales as well. So in the key of D minor, for the scale of D minor, the keynote is the note D, because that's the note it starts and ends on. Now what I've done here, this is going to be a challenging one for you. So you're going to have to, you'll have your circle of fifths out and everything like that for this. I've done an example here. So I've done the C major example, so it's not too easy for you. I've got the keynote of C, and then the keynote of its relative minor, which is A. And what you need to do is recognize the key signature, realize that, write in the keynote for the major and the keynote for the minor scale related to this key signature. So you've got one flat, one sharp, two flats, two sharps there. Okay, so that should keep you busy for a bit. Then what I want you to do is write out these natural minor scales. Remember, natural minor scale is the minor scale that comes directly from the major scale, nothing changed. So you've got A minor, D minor, B minor, E minor, and G minor, which is one we've actually just done, and we did D minor as well. You can use your circle of fifths to figure this out, but and I've also given you the key signatures as well. I don't know if you noticed there. Okay, so they are there to help you as well. So I hope that's going to keep you busy. Has anyone got any questions about that? No? Okie dokie. All right, good. Okay, well, I will leave it there.